So what I did was continue to go through these survey results and point out the differences between the requirements of the position and the training that has been set aside for that particular area. Here's a question about IT and computer background or experience. Most of the participants, almost 40 out of the 85, said that they have moderate, no formal training or certification, but am highly skilled with regards to software. And it breaks again down and from there to basic, which was another, say, 30% and less than that with expert. But the requirements for IT issues in their sim lab were overwhelmingly that they were responsible for those issues. 58 responded yes, they were, only compared to 24 that they were not. So again, when you look at these differences, you see that there's moderate training been available, but the requirements do include much more of that to occur in the lab. Same thing with audiovisual background and experience. Moderate would be the primary. Only about 35 people, and from there it became increasingly less than. No formal training or certification, but have produced small videos for perhaps personal use or in the lab. And yet again, here's 61%, 50 people who are required and responsible to maintain and repair audiovisual equipment in the lab. So as you can see between these various slides, that there's a gap between what's required and necessary for sim techs today and what's out there in terms of training and support. So what I think is really interesting is that there are everyone who's a sim technician or sim technology specialist or whatever the title is for their particular institution comes from a background that is unique and specific, and then has those skills which they can bring to their position. So whether or not that be an audio background, a video background, a healthcare background on various levels from first responder to technician like X-ray or ultrasound, an IT, a classroom technology, or education background. Some folks in the room raised their hands and said that they had previously been 3D animators or had some other type of unique special media or artistic background. And what I think is interesting about that is that if we can bring those best practices to light, that everyone in that room, out of those 85 technicians, every single person in that room definitely had the best way to do one particular thing. And if we could start to find out what everyone's top best tip would be, one that could save the other 84 technicians time and energy by creating an efficient process or knowledge of an efficient process, well, then we would really be working with that top 10%, sharing, those best tips for audio video production, moulage, software programming, hardware repair, IT and networking, and other do-it-yourself workarounds and projects. And that kind of led up to the discussion that if we join together and find a way to share these best tips, that we would really be able to begin a pool where we could have those best practices known and shared amongst the group. 2 websites to share for the group and for yourself right now is that can help us to do those things is behindthesimcurtain.com, which is a wiki put on by Cam McCowan formerly from Stanford's simulation program. And then I put together a resource, a forms board at isimtech.org, which is slowly but surely growing. But both of those are great places to share both an evolving best practices at the wiki and then need-to-know questions or comments in the forums between those 2 websites. So an interesting point was made that the simulation industry itself, although it works in technology, still seems to be stuck in the 90s, both in terms of methodology, with regards to the understanding about technology and its ability to change quickly and need to move efficiently through the learning process and the ongoing cycle of technology, and also in terms of the technology. Where are we exactly with regards to these mannequins and where they'll be going in the future? And one of the points I made is how old is this industry compared to similar fields? It's 2011, and Google really got its start in 2001, and so I think that's really important to remember and be reminded about is that Google itself, which has dramatically changed the way that this planet works in terms of communication and research and engagement and globalization is only a decade old. And so, what are the changes that are going to be coming down the pipe with regards to future generations as they become more and more engaged with technology? One of the difficulties of technology and with regards to methodologies is that not everyone knows that they need a tech yet. I think that a technician, and I felt like the group would agree with me, is an important part of an efficient simulation lab that can actually get a lot of things done. And so there's a healthy simulation article, which I think I can click on here right now. This is a healthy simulation article I wrote about a year ago on healthysimulation.com, and it's suggesting what to really look for when hiring a simulation technician. Because I think I heard a lot about nursing programs that were looking for, let's say at a small community college, we're looking for an RN or master's prepared person to be the simulation coordinator, which would include the responsibilities of that technician role at that facility. And so one of the questions, the first question I asked with regards to this article is, what question do you think is more important for a simulation technician to be able to answer immediately? A, what does a sudden drop in blood pressure indicate in a geriatric case? Or B, why is the microphone not working and the computer making that beeping noise? And so I think that just really summarizes an important part is that when you, like a Venn diagram, if you have 12 masters prepared or instructors that are capable of instructing the nursing profession, and yet you only have but no one has that technical background, well, you want to increase the skill set that you're capable of hiring, and to be able to do that, you need to know that there's an opportunity to include someone who can work with your team and expand the abilities and the educational goals that they have by bringing a different skill set to the table. So a critical question I asked the group is your position funded by grant money? I'd say about 15 to 20 people raised their hand on this one. Some people in the room had lost jobs this past year because the grant money had run out. And so I think that's really important to understand as we move forward, that these are really important positions that we need to start establishing budgets and long-term programs based off having this position within any institution or school or organization that's really looking to take simulation seriously. So when I found out that most of our group, around half of them were full-time simulation technicians, I used those numbers with regards to looking at salaries to think about with regards to those that were not grant funded or were grant funded. Now this was a capturing of data from everyone who supplied was willing to supply their information. So not just the 40 hours a week full-time salaried people, but everyone in the group. You can see the arc kind of continues up here at around the 40 to 45,000 range, with some bumps between 50 and then all the way up to 65, with a few loose ends down here, and we'll get to those in a moment. So several of the participants decided not to share with the group what their salary ranges were, but out of the data we have, we can see where the bulk will probably fall within this range here of between 35 and 65. So a good range there. But what I did was I took out all the part-time positions and just worked with the full-time numbers so that we could remove one variable when we're looking at this analysis. So this was how much do you earn annually with healthcare training on the job. So no previous healthcare experience. We can see that the range again was about 40 to 45,000, with one person down here still making 80 to 85, and we wanted to find out who that was and have them give a talk next time. How much do you earn annually with nurse training? And so you could see that most of the folks in the room that had the highest end salaries looked like they were probably responsible for both the simulation coordination or education role as well as the simulation technician role. So they were combining positions into one.